Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Ginjera Mitchell, and this is the New Players Podcast, my booking story episode number 4. Today, we're going to be joined by Humberly Gonzalez. A lot of you will recognize Humberly from her role as Sophie Sanchez in Ginny and Georgia. You might even know her from Star Wars Outlaws, where she plays Kay Vess, or even from The Waterfront, where she stars as Jenna Tate. Today, Humberly and I are going to discuss her very first booking, how sometimes we have to show casting what they really want. And we're even going to discuss how the transition was from in the room auditions to mostly self tapes. So I'm excited to share this episode with you, and let's get into it. Hi, Umberly. It's nice to
Hi.
see you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's just jump right in. I'd love to hear your booking story. If there's a specific story you want to tell, maybe it's your first big booking, maybe it's one of your more recent ones.
You know what? So many stories come to mind. And I had a specific one because it's a recent one. Like I could talk about The Waterfront or Star Wars. And I think every booking story has such a saga behind them. And I've certainly been through many sagas. But I kind of want to take it back to booking my very first big role
I love that.
because I think that kind of changed my mindset in the industry a lot. This was specifically for Orphan Black. This was like back in 2018, 2017. And I remember when this booking came through back in the day when we used to always be in the room. It
Mhm.
wasn't self-tape, it wasn't over Zoom. When I started acting 10 years ago, it was always in person. And there's a certain energy around that I'm really grateful I got to experience because I got to bring that into Zoom auditions when I do have them.
Yeah.
But that one in specific, casting fought my team. They didn't want me to audition because they thought I was too young and too pretty for the role. A pregnant mom who's a widower, but she is young. It's just that I guess they couldn't fully see it. And it was such a big lesson for me because my team really fought for me to be seen. I remember my agent saying to casting, let her work speak for itself. And they ended up kind of caving in and saying, okay, we'll see her. And I remember being in the room with the director herself. And as I walk in, I already kind of have this idea in my head of like, oh, they already have this preconceived notion of me, but I have to kind of fight against it and really show up as what I can bring to the table. Um, I do the scene once, and the director goes, "You need to take off your shoes." And I was like,
Oh,
"Okay." She's like, "I just feel like you're not fully grounded, and your shoe has a little bit of heel that I can see. I just want you to be like really in it." And I was like, "Okay." So like awkwardly take off my shoes in the middle of the audition, like, "Oh my God, what's going on right now?"
yeah.
And I do the scene. It's a very vulnerable scene where she's kind of talking about her husband. It's a bit of like a eulogy, and she's pregnant. So obviously, there's a lot of vulnerability in it. And I felt really proud of the work. And I believe the director in the room was Helen Shaver, who's a well-known Canadian actor, director. And so, she goes, "That was really beautiful." And she was like, "We do think you're too young and pretty for the part," but she just went, "Don't stop acting." It's like, what?
Oh,
She was like, "Keep doing what you're doing. You're great." As I'm literally leaving the room, like she's shouting, she was like, "You're great. Keep going." And I'm just like, well, that was interesting. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not going to get it. They already made up their mind about me. A couple weeks go by, and my team calls me and says I got the part. And I was like, what? After
wow.
everything, after they fought, after they weren't even going to see me. And it just goes to show that sometimes even casting doesn't know what they want. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's breakdown. Sometimes there's characteristics of a character that they think that they want because it's going to serve the story. But nothing can compare to what a human can do and what an actor can really bring to a role that they didn't even know could happen. So I'm really grateful for that experience because that really allowed me to expand myself and how I'm seen and what I can bring. But I always love it because I was like, they were never gonna cast me in their mind at first from like just a resume and a picture, and then the work did speak for itself. And I really think that that's kind of the heart of everything I do is the work will always speak for itself. Everything else will kind of arrange itself, like hair, makeup, the pregnant belly, everything. It looked so
Yeah.
good on screen. And it was like a 2 episode arc for this character. So it was really cool. And it was my first time being like on a big set like that. So
That's a really incredible story. And I think what's a really great takeaway from it as well, beyond what you said about maybe casting doesn't actually know what they want,
you have to
is
show them what they want.
you have to show them what they want, but also like
Yeah.
to as an actor, and especially if that was one of your first bigger roles, for
Yeah.
you to still show up with your game face on, to still
Yeah.
do your best work with, because I think a lot of actors might, especially when you're just starting, it can be like intimidating when people
Yes.
say
Yeah.
no. It can be hard when they're like, you're not what we're looking for. And I think it would have been easy to fall into a trap of like, oh, I'm not even really going to do that work that hard on this
You
audition.
give up before you fully give it a shot. And I think that does happen a lot. I think there's a bit of the ego that gets hurt. There's an embarrassment or an insecurity that you're like, well, they're not going to cast me, so I'm just going to like show up and do it. But it really reminded me that every opportunity to be seen is just as important, whether they say yes to you or not. That is a win. To be
Yeah.
seen is a win. And the fact that, yeah, I wasn't even supposed to be seen for this role and I ended up being cast, it really does it turns everything upside down on what I thought, auditioning was or what I thought casting was looking for. And it gave me a certain confidence that when I know that I can do a job or a certain role, all I have to do is show up, even if it's against all odds.
100%. I think that's really inspiring and very cool. I'm like thinking even for my own self, how I'm going to use that story to like, you
Yeah.
know.
It's like, remember that they don't even know. Show them.
So, taking that story and that experience, do you have a specific way that you deal when things don't necessarily turn out that way after you've put in the work? Like how do you handle that?
Yeah. I think obviously through experience and seeing w when I get something and when I don't book something, I think the only times that I'm really heartbroken or disillusioned is when I get so close and I'm runner up and it's also maybe a project that in my mind I think it's going to be extremely successful and it's going to be something that will be career changing. But the reality is the comfort I find in all of that is that we actually don't know what we're meant for. We
Hmm.
know that we're meant for greatness and we're going to do amazing things in our career as artists, as human beings, but we don't know what those are. Maybe the thing that we lost was actually redirecting us to the right thing. And I've had more of those than not,
Hmm.
where I don't get chosen for something that I thought was a sure thing. And suddenly, 3 months later, the doors open up for me to audition for my dream director or my dream project that I would have never gotten a chance to audition for if I had been compromised with something else. And that happens time and time again because I know it's so cliche and you probably hear it a lot, but what's for you cannot pass you. And
Yeah.
it will not. It just won't. And the hardest part is believing in that. I have an undying self-belief now because yes, there's proof that I can work, but I have also said no a lot and I've also been quote unquote rejected a lot because
Yeah.
they weren't for me.
Right.
And what helps me think about it is I think of the creator's point of view. I think of the writers. I think of the people who have been attached to this project years before they even got to casting.
Hmm.
And I want them to find the perfect person as much as I want to be a part of it. But I think because they've spent more time with it, they know best. I can't be angry at missing out on something just because I was excited and I wanted to be a part of something when it's not right for me. Do I believe I can play everything? Absolutely. I think we
Yeah,
all
of course.
feel like Delulu enough that I'm like, I could do that, I could do that, I could do action, comedy, film, like everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's a story to be told, and there are certain people's souls that are meant to be a part of it.
Hmm.
And when it's for you and you get it, you know that there's such attachment to that because of your soul and who you are as a person, and your craft supports that. But I think ultimately it's about who you are as a person. And so I try to remember that, oh, I really wanted that, but there's a reason that that wasn't for me because not because I'm a bad actor or because I'm not wanted. At the end of the day, I was seen for it. That was
Hmm.
a yes. I try to remember that I was already in consideration for it. Even getting an audition for something, like people forget that there's hundreds of people who did it. And
Exactly.
so I focus on what did happen, not what
Yeah.
didn't happen, because that wasn't never going to be a part of my journey.
Absolutely. I like that viewpoint too because you can see that you view yourself as a collaborator on it, regardless of if you get it or don't get it. When you start looking at writers, the
Yeah.
directors, because it is a collaboration, it's a giant machine, and there's a bunch
Yeah.
of things attaching to it, and sometimes the machine's for you to attach to, and sometimes it's not. And I think that's a really beautiful way of looking at it because it
Yeah.
doesn't. make you feel like it's a no for you. It makes you feel like it's just not this one.
Exactly. And honestly, it's happened so many times before where I do a great audition and I have a great connection with the producer or the writer or the director, and they just think of me. They have me in their back of their mind for future project, for other things. If someone says, "Hey, I'm looking for this person, do you have anyone in mind?" And they'll go, "Oh, yes, Umberly. She wasn't right for this project, but I think she's great, and I think it would be great for your project." I mean, this industry is so connected in so many ways that we can't see. There's
Mhm.
a lot of conversations happening that we're not privy to. And I always like to think of that right now, even in this second where I'm not working, I'm not booked, there are things happening. There are projects being written. There are directors thinking of me because they want to collaborate with me. And all I have to do is stay belief of my path and keep doing the work because when the time is right, we'll align and it'll just be like this perfect harmony.
Yeah.
And that helps me in the times where I'm not on set and where I'm not working and I'm kind of looking for that next thing. And I'm very particular with the things I say yes to. So in the slower times, which I'm in one right now where I kind of took a bit of a break and it's given me time to think of, the last 10 years of my career and where I want to go next. Um, do I have those moments of insecurities and doubts? Absolutely. I think we're human and we're bound to, but I get right back up and I go, no, because I know I'm not done yet. I'm not done telling stories. I'm not done sharing what I want to share. It's okay to fall into those patterns as long as it doesn't overwhelm every single thought that you're just done and you're never going to act again.
That's incredible. I love that. So, speaking of the last 10 years, do you remember your first
Mhm.
audition ever?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you know what? I remember I was still in theater school and I had just met with a few agents in the city when I was doing this like little like Toronto trip. We did this short film that ended up going to TIFF, but it was part of our third year class with Don McKellar. And while we were in Toronto, I ended up taking a few meetings for like agents and stuff just to see. And then at the end of the year, I was like, okay, maybe like I'm ready to like take on agents, but I hadn't said yes to anybody yet. However, this one specific agent started sending me auditions because she was like, honestly, I know there's no contract here. However, I think this breakdown is so you, and I think you should start learning like how to put yourself on tape. And one of the very first ones I think was Shadow Hunters. And I was auditioning for a series regular on that show. And I don't even know, like I came into this like career not knowing anything. Like I didn't know pretty much like how to audition or anything. I came from theater. I didn't even know I was gonna do TV and film, but it was like alluring to me. I was like, oh, maybe I could. But it was like a series regular for Shadow Hunters. And I just remember feeling self-taping was so unnatural.
Yeah.
Like I was in this giant theater room with a camera, light, and like my friend, it was so echoey, and I was like, didn't know where to look or what to do. And I remember at the start when I started doing tapes, my team was like, and the feedback I got was like, oh, she's great, but she's green. And I was like, what does that even mean? What do you mean I'm green? Like
Yeah.
I had to understand and the shift from like theater to film. And it was all about details and not rushing and really having the thoughts and letting it land. And I think it was really helpful for me to start auditioning without any pressure, I guess. Like I didn't expect to really book anything,
Hmm.
which I didn't from self tapes at the start. I think like everything I started booking at the beginning was all commercials
Yeah.
and it was all in person. That was way better in person. It's like more warm, more inviting. I get to kind of break the ice with my personality. Self-taping to me felt so alien like. And eventually I got really good at it, but it took a moment.
It's funny that we lived through a time where we're like the people reminiscing on the the old days.
I miss running into like castmates or like just peers from the industry. People like are sitting around learning their lines and everything. I was like, it's such an energy, such a rush.
It was a fun time. Hopefully it'll go back, but I mean, who knows?
I think slowly some things are coming back, but it has given us the freedom to kind of like live anywhere and take longer breaks somewhere else, skip winter, whatever, and just kind of audition from where you are. But you win some, you lose some, and there's pros and cons to both. Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to travel and stuff like that more for
Yeah.
sure.
Love that I can be like, oh, I did a self tip in Spain and one in Greece and
Yes.
one in like the States and like, yeah.
Yeah. And then another question I have for you, and I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit, because you did have a funny story with Orphan Black, but has there ever been a like weird audition where like someone asked you to do something kind of funny or you were like put on the spot?
I mean, let's talk about the fact that sometimes commercial auditions, I think, pushed a boundary that didn't have to. I remember being asked to kiss like a random person for an audition that I did end up booking. But back in the day, there was not like intimacy coordinators or consent in that way. And
No.
that was like when I think back to it, I was like, yeah, I'll do anything. I don't think I was really thinking about it, but that's definitely weird. And that would never happen. I'm like, do not ask people to kiss when they've never met each other. Like it was like full on make out with this random dude.
Oh my
I
goodness.
cannot. Um,
Obviously
I
pre-COVID
will.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, pre-COVID, like truly. I remember auditioning for Jason Knight and I was so nervous. I fully choked, couldn't get my words out. I was like, and he literally was like, Umberly, would you like a glass of water? So he's sitting there pouring me a glass of water, giving it to me, chugging it, and me being like, he's never gonna see me again. I'm blacklisted forever as an actor. Like I used to get so nervous. I didn't know how to deal with my nerves back then when I was being seen. I think I was putting way too much pressure on myself. Safe to say, obviously, I wasn't blacklisted, but that audition
Yeah.
will always stay in my brain. And I remember talking to him since, and something he said was like, we all have bad days. You're not a bad actor. You had a bad moment. He's like, the best way that you can get through that is I try to get that actor back in the room ASAP. Get back on this. Remember that like we can put that behind us and you can have another go. And I really appreciated that about him. I think he's awesome. Yeah.
That's really nice to hear that people in the industry, 'cause
I know.
I think a lot of people like
I
will
think
talk.
so. I'm like, they believe in us.
Yeah, right. It's funny because a lot of times it's easy to focus on the negatives and focus on, like and on the negative self-talk. I think that's common for a lot of actors, but it's important to remind ourselves that
Mhm.
oftentimes it's not the truth, and most people are smart enough to tell that you're just having a bad day. One of our favorite things we like to ask every single person we're interviewing is what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received from like a mentor, a coach, or even something that you yourself have learned that you would want to share with our viewers or listeners.
Yeah. I feel like I'm constantly hearing all of the advice and the lessons I learn whenever I'm having like really low days where I'm like, oh, where's that insecurity coming from? Or do I really believe that about myself? I love taking a look at my past credentials of like these are many of the reasons why this is not done and this is not the end of the road. And I might feel like, oh no. Um, Let's take a very recent experience. I hadn't had a callback in like over a year since I booked Waterfront, which was last August. And I wasn't really auditioning. I ended up like doing a movie I got offered, but then after that, I wasn't really doing callbacks or anything like that. I took a bit of a break. So coming back to have this audition and then instantly them being like, "Oh, we like her. Let's have a callback." I was like, "Oh, that feels reassuring. That's great." But there was a moment where I was like, oh, my heart's beating a bit faster. There was a bit of waiting. The audition, like it was a little late, and I was getting like in my head a little bit. When I started doing the first scene, finally, when we were seeing each other, I forgot a line. And I was like, oh, and then they just gave me the line and I just kept going. And I was very graceful and I said, thank you so much. Like this was great. Love the energy here. Bye. And after that, I was like, okay, so that wasn't my best work. And it was very humbling because I have been doing this for 10 years. And it just reminded me that I have learned so much in the way that I talk to myself. I think old Umberly would have said, wow, you're so unprofessional. Like they did not like that. You missed a line. You weren't prepared. And in my mind, I was like, I was. I think I just had a human moment of getting excited, forgetting something. Like it happens to all of us. I've
Yeah.
literally been on set with seasoned actors where they're apologizing to me because they couldn't remember some of their lines. And I was reminded of that. I'm like, oh, that was a long time ago in Working Moms. And then here I am years later having the same experience of like, I just forgot what I was supposed to say. And instead of attacking myself, I just kept going. I didn't profusely apologize. I didn't just like beat on myself and started like crying, which could be like the last thing of like feeling
Yeah.
overwhelmed. I left that Zoom call being like, you know what? I know that I have grown as an actor because we all make mistakes. We're so human. And I know that they would much rather see a human recover from a tiny little slip up than someone not knowing how to handle a challenge or handle a mishap. We're always going to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. And every job and every audition is going to test us. I think as long as we keep our chin up and not attack ourselves for not being perfect, it's always going to be imperfect. And sometimes it's those imperfect moments that really lead to magic. And we are all running that we're like, have it all together or that we're perfect. And honestly, that's so exhausting. I'd rather be this like imperfect, vulnerable artist who speaks the truth and can admit like, yeah, I really messed that up, but I'm glad that I can get back on the horse and I can just like keep at it. But that experience recently just humbled me that I was like, the work continues and I don't know everything I think I know, and there's still growth and there's still breakthroughs that need to happen, which is great because sometimes when you've been doing this for a while, you kind of go like, where else do I go? Do I like I know how to do this really well, so what else am I not great at that I can perfect or can improve on? But yeah, it's just about like acknowledging that there's always room for growth and being imperfect, it's kind of magic.
I love that. I feel like I like that's like a quote. Like being imperfect is magic because I think you're right. Like there is no such thing as perfect. And I think the less hard we are on ourselves when we aren't perfect, like give yourself some grace and like laugh. You can like it's okay.
Like, whoops, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think like because this wasn't for a lack of preparation.
No.
Even when you prepare and everything is supposed to go according to plan, things can still not be how you expected them to be. And that's okay. Because what I took from that was I reacted in a way that I'm really proud of. I didn't crumble under that small thing. I didn't attack myself. And I think back in the day, old Umberly would have probably been really disappointed in herself and been angry and cried about it. And instead I was like, well, that happened. That's okay. And I'm just gonna let it go because there will be a next one. And now I know what I need to watch for. What were those feelings that made me feel nervous? Was it just the fact that it had been a long time? Was I putting a lot of pressure on myself? So I get to kind of dig deep and instead of attacking myself, just be curious about all the feelings that came up.
Yeah, I'm gonna remember that as well. I think that's
Yeah.
really nice for everyone to hear. Is there anything you want to share, like what's next? What's going on for you that you want to leave our audiences with?
You know what? I don't know what's next. And what a beautiful and daunting place to be. I think a lot of us tend to be in that place sometimes. I've had a very full and beautiful 10 years of my career where I'm constantly working, constantly on set. And I know what that feels like to have the time to breathe, to think, to audition, to be inspired, to just wonder what comes next. I'm very excited for it and I have no idea what it's going to be, but I'm calling in like action. I'm calling in something that really challenges me and something that I've never done. When you have nothing going on, everything can happen. And that's how I see it. I'm like, it's not like silence to me in the sense that like, oh, I have no idea and this is scary. It's more like, wow, there's so much space. There's so much space for me to dream. And I'm excited for what 2026 will bring. This break has given me a lot of perspective where I've been looking at the last 10 years of my career and being really grateful. And I think when I'm really grateful and happy where I'm at, that's when things really come. I'm auditioning for really exciting things. So I get to kind of dream about like, ooh, could it be that? Could it be that? And in the meantime, I get to spend the holidays with my family. They're moving back to North America. So I've kind of been reminded of the priorities in my life, which is, my self-care, my relationships, my community. And that's really important too, because I get to pour from a full cup.
That's beautiful. And thank you so much, Umberly, for saying that because one of the main takeaways of this podcast is we're really trying to have like those real conversations with actors and like do something a bit different with it where it's not just about like everything's always amazing and perfect and this because that's not the reality of the job.
Yeah.
And
Even for the best of people.
ex
I'm like,
and yeah.
you know, like when I tell people, I'm like, yeah, no, I haven't booked anything since last August. It might look that way and things take time and things come out.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I've gotten certain offers and things, but I'm like I said, I think this year I prioritized my physical and mental health, where I wanted to travel, I wanted to connect with my family again, I wanted to deepen my friendships, and it naturally kind of went that way. And then my show got canceled. And that was such an awakening for me that I was like, yeah, I needed to grieve that, but also it's a redirection. There's a reason that wasn't going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's no guarantee, even when you negotiate. And I was a series regular, I was optioned, and boom, just like that, you're going back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Very humbling and necessary. Now that I'm at the tail end of that, because I was this summer, it was like, whoa, I mean, there's parallel universes happening. I'm like in another world. I was doing season 2 of that. Now I'm like, where else can I go? Where else am I going to go? And I know that I get to look back at this interview and this moment a year from now and be like, wow, she had no idea. And it's exciting
It's so
that,
exciting.
yeah,
And it's beautiful too because like you said, you get to focus on these other parts of your life, like your relationships, your friends, your family that you always focus on, but when you're on set and stuff, it's not as easy to give the
yeah,
attention to
I
those things.
definitely, yeah, I realized that I had neglected certain things, and especially like within myself, that it's so easy to do when you're so focused on doing something you do love.
Yeah.
But I'm not just an actor, and
Exactly.
I can see how you can get fully lost in that and ignore parts of yourself or your life that need a bit more attention and like TLC. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, that was an incredible and perfect answer. And I love the idea that we are actors, but it's not all we are. You don't ask a dentist how many surgeries are you doing a day, a day.
Yeah.
Like, oh, how many teeth cleanings? Like it's like, okay, like the person's a dentist, but they got other stuff going on. We're actors and we have these
Yeah.
incredible stories and we've worked on great things, but we also have other things going on for us too. I cannot wait to, yeah, chat with you a year from now. And I mean, I'm going to chat with you before a year from now, but you
Yeah. Like
know
we'll see what
what I mean.
happens.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Umberly. It was so great having you on the New Players, my booking story podcast, and learning all the incredible things about you and your story. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you. I'm gonna go cry at Wicked now.
Yes, enjoy Wicked.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye, Umberly.
Bye.